Welcome into Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery. Today on the show, we'll recap what we saw with the Falcons out in LA. Next week becomes, I think, very important for the Falcons. And it's not a matter of either or, it needs to be both. We'll talk about all of that next. Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked on Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
We welcome you into this Monday edition of Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked on Sports Atlanta. Head to youtube.com, put Locked on Sports Atlanta in your search browser. When you get there, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment. Free and available to download on all your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Odyssey. Download us, leave us a 5-star review there. Don't forget, Amazon Fire, Roku, we're available on all those platforms. Follow me on my Twitter page at JMCH316. Look, it was a wild game out in Los Angeles yesterday. Falcons and Rams. Falcons do go down in defeat, 31-27 yesterday. Now, I'm not as mad about the result of this game as I am about last week's game against the Saints, in a game that absolutely could have and should have been won by the Falcons. Here's the takeaways from what we saw yesterday. That's as bad a first half as you could possibly play in the NFL. And nothing went right for the Falcons. They were bad in the red zone. They were bad defensively. They were bad. Even Younghoe Koo missing a field goal, right? Everything about that first half was bad. That was frustrating. I'm more frustrated about that than anything else, because I'll give the Falcons credit. They showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of just desire to come back and be better and adjust and things like that. And I give Arthur Smith, some of the credit on that. The fact that they played much better. That would have been a very easy game, knowing you're already on the West Coast. You're just headed up to Seattle. Much more winnable game to just say, okay, Super Bowl champions weren't going to go down 0-2. We know we're behind the 8 ball, and we'll just let this thing go. But I give credit to Arthur Smith for adjusting, getting things cranked up and going in the second half and making a game out of it. You saw guys making plays all over the field. Now, let's talk about the quarterback first off, okay? We'll get more into this in the next segment, but the reality of how long Marcus Mariota probably should play, if this year is not about wins, as my friend Mark Zinno likes to say, okay, then there's no reason to, after a while here, and maybe after next week, think about playing Marcus Mariota. Does he give you the best chance to win? Sure, but you can't tell me it's not about wins and then play the guy that your rationale is he gives me the best chance to win. See how those two things don't balance one another out there? So we'll see how next week goes. Like I said, we're going to talk about that in here in just a little bit. But I thought Marcus Mariota was very average at best. I'll be honest with you. I was glad to see that pass total came down. Now, part of that is they had to rally back and try to get some things going. I love the fact that Drake London got 12 targets. Can I tell you, that should be what Drake London gets every game. Even if you only throw it 26 times in a game, 12 of those targets should be at Drake London. And you saw he finally caught his first touchdown pass, got a chance to make some plays in the red zone. He had 8 catches for 86 yards with a touchdown in the game. Throw him the football. What's the point of having, and we'll talk about Kyle Pitts in just a minute. What's the point of drafting Drake London, Kyle Pitts, not taking, did you see Micah Parsons with the most sacks ever or whatever in a guy's first season in a, couple of games or whatever, fastest guy to whatever sack. Penei Sewell has graded out as I think he graded out last week as the 3rd best right tackle in all of the NFL. If you passed on all those guys to sell me on pass catcher and things like that, then you better get the ball to them. You better throw him the football. An unused weapon is a useless weapon. If we steal a military term there. So I love the fact that London got all the targets. That's what it should be. That's what you have those guys. You can't sell me on what a mismatch it is in the red zone and everywhere else and then not huck it to them. If bad things happen, bad things happen. Your quarterback made enough bad plays that adding another bad play or two isn't going to kill this team. Now, we'll talk more about this in just a second, but first, let me talk about my friends over at betonline.net. How'd you do this weekend? Wild weekend of college football, big weekend in the NFL. Baseball is really heating up right now, division races. You need to bet smarter, and that's where BetOnline comes in to all of it. Your number one source for all of your sports wagering information. Head to betonline.net today. Check out all the information available at your fingertips. E-scores, betting, podcast information, stats, everything that you need is available at betonline.net today. And you can use it right on your mobile device, right? So everybody wants something easy, quick, handy, what have you. You can get it right on your mobile device. BetOnline.net is the place to go to get better information, be a smarter sports wagerer, and get everything that you need right at your fingertips. BetOnline.net is where the game starts. So if your quarterback can't make a play as it is, throw it to the guys who can, right? Now, Tyler Algier, did I not talk about this last week? Got a chance, got 10 carries. I said going into the game, I was hoping for 8 to 10 carries. He was fine, was nothing special. It's his first ever NFL action. I wasn't looking for a 150-yard performance out of Tyler Algier. So I thought he ran fine. Got you 3 yards a carry. Patterson was fine. He only had 10 carries. The game didn't dictate running it as much. Were they great in the run? No. But they weren't god-awful either. And at least that's a good sign. They weren't going to run for 200. I would have liked to have seen over 100. They ended up with 90 yards out there. That's more closer to what they averaged last year. I expect that number will get more on track against Seattle. I thought Kadero Hodge made some nice plays out there. For whatever reason, I'm really starting to like Kadero Hodge. I don't know. The kid goes out and he makes some plays for you out there. I was disappointed in the pass rush. Coming off of a week where we had 4 sacks last week, the Rams gave up 7. You knew that the Rams would take that personally. But they had multiple new guys on their starting line. One of their guys got hurt during the game. You should have had more than 1 sack in that game. And that's going to be one of the keys about this defense. They have to get pressure. They have to go out and get pressure. One thing I really do like about the defense is that they are creating turnovers. And if you can get sacks, you can get turnovers created. You may not have the most talented defense, but you can change the dynamic of a game very quickly if you sack the quarterback, turn the football over. And that's at least 2 things that I'm hoping that the Falcons can do. They may not have Micah Parsons level talent on their defense. They may not have first-team all-pros. But if you can get teams to turn it over against you and you can sack the quarterback, you can be in every game. And that's where the Falcons are, because they had no business being in that game the way they played in the first half. They had no business being in it. But your defense gets some turnovers. You make some stops. You make a play here. You make a play there. A block punt. And all of a sudden, you're back in it. That's the thing. The Falcons are completely outclassed from a talent perspective lining up against the Rams. But when you create turnovers, make a special teams play, get something here, get something there, beat bada boop, all of a sudden you find yourself in an NFL game. And that's the thing about this. There'll be a lot of those opportunities for the Falcons this year if they can do some of those basic things. Run the football effectively, create some turnovers, sack the quarterback, do some basic fundamental things. They can be in every game this season. So I did think that there was plenty of good things to take away. I'm not frustrated by the loss. It kind of was what it was. I was glad to see that the Falcons didn't just throw in the towel. Would have been very easy to, being in LA, Super Bowl champs, everything else. I do think that speaks to the coaching. I do think that speaks to the resiliency of the players. Everybody's playing and fighting for a job. Now, I want to mention one thing too, the Hail Mary at the end of the game. I went back and watched this play 30 times minimum. Mariota never had a shot on that play. Go back and rewatch the play and go frame by frame. First off, Caleb McGarry completely whiffed on his block. They had Leonard Floyd, and I forget who the other guy was, but he completely whiffed on his block. They left Avery Williams in to block, and he's got his back turned and doesn't know where anybody is. He didn't do a single thing. So Mariota literally had no shot. I know everybody's blaming Mariota for that particular play. Go back and watch. McGarry whiffed on his guy. That already turned around. And then Jake Matthews couldn't sustain his block on his guy. And Avery Williams looked like he'd never played football in his entire life, just turning his back and spinning around like he had a bullfighter sash on, going, ole, ole. He looked like Paul Soliai with the bullfighter slash going, ole, ole, ole out there. He had no idea what to do. That play was extremely frustrating because that brought back all the bad memories of where this team is. There's a lot of good to take away from it, but coming up next, we're going to talk about why next week is really important. Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.